Every story holds a turning point. Every turning point, an invitation from God. This is Stories of Faith and Redemption, where grace unfolds one story at a time. He was darkness, she was light, and in the quiet war between them, a scarred soul took its first breath. The rain came down like a curtain over Hong Kong, heavy, steady, and somehow theatrical. Joy Daniels leaned against the window of her modest apartment, eyes closed, her Bible open in her lap. The city hummed in the distance. A flickering lamp warmed the space, and a faint gospel melody played low on her phone speaker. Then, her hospital pager buzzed once, then again. Then her private phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello," she answered, standing. Her voice was warm but alert. "Is this Nurse Joy Daniels?" A thick Cantonese accent. Male, nervous, urgent. "Yes. Who's speaking?" "We need medical attention. Now, no hospital. Private location. High pay." "I'm not a mercenary nurse," she said. "If it's a criminal..." "It's not what you think," the voice cracked. "Please. You're the only one who can help him. I'll text you the address." The line went dead. Joy stared at the phone, then looked at her Bible. "God, if I go, you better be there too." She arrived 25 minutes later, drenched, heart steady. The black sedan that picked her up hadn't spoken a word. Neither had the tall man in black gloves who led her into the high-rise penthouse. When the door opened, the scent of blood hit her like a wave. There, slumped on a velvet chaise, shirt soaked red, breathing ragged, was a man with skin like moonlit bronze and jet black hair matted with sweat. He was barely conscious. "Who is he?" she whispered, kneeling beside him. No answer. She reached for gloves and supplies from her bag. "I need light, clean towels, and hot water, now." No one moved. Joy looked up sharply. "Unless you want him to bleed out and die right here, move." The room scrambled. She ripped his shirt open, multiple stab wounds, one deep, close to the lung. "Lord Jesus," she breathed, pressing gauze to the wound. "Guide my hands." He groaned, eyes fluttering open. Brown, sharp, dangerous. Their gazes locked, just for a moment. "You're not my doctor," he muttered hoarsely. "No," she replied, "but I'm your last hope tonight." Hours passed. She sutured the worst wound, stopped the bleeding, bandaged his chest, monitored his breathing. He drifted in and out, never saying much, but never fully unaware. As dawn brushed faint gold across the city skyline, she wiped his forehead and whispered a prayer over him. "God, whatever he's done, don't let this be the end of his story." A low, dry voice broke the silence. "You believe in fairy tales?" She jumped slightly. He was awake now, staring at the ceiling. "I believe in grace," she said calmly, "even for people like you." He turned his head slowly, eyes narrowing. "You don't even know who I am." Joy stood, packing up. "If I needed to know, I would have asked." He looked her over, expression unreadable. "You're not scared of me." "I don't scare easy," she said. "I was raised by a pastor and 4 brothers. You'll have to do more than bleed on my shoes to rattle me." His lips twitched, almost a smirk. "You're interesting." "And you're bleeding," she snapped. "Rest. I'll be back to check your vitals later." By the time Joy stepped outside the building, the morning sun had pierced the storm clouds. She didn't know what to make of the man upstairs. His eyes haunted her thoughts. Back at the clinic, she was washing her hands when Dr. Ko, the clinic's director, pulled her aside. "I just got a call," he said quietly. "Joy, do you know who that man was?" "No," she replied, heart thudding. Dr. Ko's face was grim. Kazuo Takeda, the Takeda heir, Hong Kong's most wanted in the underworld. You were in a lion's den. Joy went still. But, she began, he's just a man, wounded. He needed help. He is not just a man, Dr. Ko said firmly. Walk away, Joy, before you get caught in something you can't pray your way out of. That night, alone in her apartment, Joy stared at the ceiling. Her mind said to walk away, but her spirit whispered, stay. Because something about Kazuo Takeda didn't feel like a monster. He felt like a man drowning in shadows, who never once asked to be saved. But maybe, just maybe, he needed to be. He thought her prayers were pointless, until silence with her felt holier than anything he'd ever known. Joy Daniels stood once more at the edge of the Takeda penthouse. She wasn't sure why she came back. Maybe it was professionalism, maybe it was compassion, or maybe it was something far more dangerous. Obedience to that still, small voice that hadn't left her alone since she walked away. The door opened before she could knock. A tall man in black gloves silently stepped aside, letting her in. The place was darker now, curtains drawn, light filtering in slits across the marble floor. The scent of disinfectant had replaced blood, but something else lingered in the air. Restlessness, guilt, grief. She stepped into the room. Kazuo Takeda was awake, fully this time, shirtless beneath the bandages, sitting upright in a lounge chair, staring at the rain streaking the window. You came back, he said without turning. You're still alive, she answered, pulling out her stethoscope. So yes, I did. He looked at her then, eyes sharp, amused. Most women would run. I'm not most women. She checked his bandages with gentle fingers. Clean, healing, no infection. I changed your meds, she said softly. Your system was reacting to one of the painkillers. Kazuo tilted his head, watching her work. You know, he murmured, you act like this is normal, like I'm just another patient. You are. I killed a man. Her hand stilled. She didn't look at him. Not yet. I've killed many men, he said, voice like gravel and regret. With my hands, with my silence, with my name. She met his eyes. I'm not here because of who you've been, she said quietly. I'm here because you didn't die, which means your story isn't finished yet. He narrowed his gaze. So God sent you? Joy stood upright, folding her arms. He sends us all to someone eventually. Kazuo laughed, low and bitter. Then he must be cruel. He turned toward the window again, voice low, nearly breaking. Why would God love a man like me? Joy sat down across from him, slow and deliberate. The silence between them was thick, holy almost. She didn't speak right away. Instead, she reached into her bag and pulled out a small bottle of anointing oil. Kazuo scoffed. Oh, we're doing rituals now. She didn't flinch, just opened the bottle and dabbed some on his wrist. I don't do rituals, she said. I remind people who they were before sin tried to own them. He stared at her. You ever save someone who didn't want saving? Joy met his gaze. Calm, steady, bold. I wasn't the one who saved you. Kazuo blinked. Something flickered in his face. I just held the bandage, she added. Jesus stopped the bleeding. Over the next several days, she returned. Not because she was required, but because she felt led. Her spirit stirred every time she saw his name in her phone. She prayed before entering the penthouse, and again when she left. Kazuo, for his part, became a contradiction. Cold yet attentive, distant yet oddly considerate. One evening, she found the tea set already laid out, her favorite blend, and a folded towel beside her chair. I noticed you always wipe the table before you sit, he muttered, avoiding her eyes. Joy smiled faintly. You watch closely. I have to. My enemies do the same. She hesitated. Do you have any friends? He didn't answer. The silence spoke volumes. On the fourth night, he pulled his shirt off himself for the first time. No assistance. He sat on the edge of the chaise while she rechecked the stitches. Joy pressed lightly around the wound. How's the pain? It's quieter now, he said. He glanced down at her hands. How gently she moved. How her fingers were warm but firm. She looked up and found him watching her. Neither spoke. The moment hung in the air. Electric. Heavy. She felt it then. Not desire. Not temptation. But recognition. He was broken. But so was she. Just in different ways. Later that night, Joy stood by the window as rain tapped lightly on the glass. She whispered a prayer, not aloud but in her heart. Lord, protect him, even from himself. Kazuo stepped beside her, uncharacteristically quiet. You're not afraid of me, he said again. No, she replied softly, because I see who you could be. Then, a sharp knock. The guards didn't answer. Another knock. Then silence. Then, bang. Glass shattered in the hallway. Down! Kazuo pulled her suddenly, shielding her body with his. Gunshots rang out in the distance. Footsteps. Screams. A voice shouted in Mandarin, Takeda! You're a ghost! Time to die like one. Joy clutched his shirt, heart pounding. What's happening? His jaw clenched. They found me! Kazuo shoved open a hidden panel in the wall, revealing a dark stairwell. You want to live? He said, eyes blazing. Run! But Joy grabbed his arm. I'm not leaving you. His breath hitched. You should. I can't. Their eyes met, closer than they'd ever been. He whispered, shaken, You're not real. And she whispered back, I'm answered prayer. Then they ran. He had never known quiet could feel like safety, until he heard her whisper worship through trembling. The night air burned with chaos. Joy stumbled through the alleyway behind Kazuo, the gunfire still echoing in her ears. His white shirt was now soaked red. Again. Not as deep as before, but enough to make her knees weak with fear. Keep going, he grunted, gripping his side. They reached a hidden vehicle, a rusted black SUV. The driver inside didn't speak. He just nodded at Kazuo and peeled into the night. Where are we going? Joy asked, clutching the door handle. Somewhere they won't follow, Kazuo muttered. Eyes closed, head leaned back. An old clinic, quiet, in the hills. Joy looked at him. He was pale, wounded again, bleeding for reasons she still didn't understand. But she did understand one thing. God had sent her to him, not for his money, not for his name, but for his soul. They arrived before dawn, a 2-story building nestled in a bamboo grove. The wind whispered through the trees, and a low mist wrapped around the steps like something sacred. Inside, Joy took command again. Clean water, gauze, a makeshift bed on a long table. Kazuo didn't speak while she worked. He just watched her. She wiped the blood from his abdomen, cleaned the graze on his shoulder. Her hands never trembled, though her heart did. He hissed slightly. You missed your calling as a field medic. I was raised for crisis, she murmured, spiritually and otherwise. He studied her, so calm, even with blood on your hands. Joy wrung the cloth in silence, then answered softly, My peace doesn't come from things being calm. It comes from knowing who's holding me when everything around me is falling apart. Night fell again. The clinic lights flickered as the old generator kicked in. Kazuo lay on the bed, breathing shallow but steady. His shirt was folded neatly beside him, bandages clean. Outside, cicadas hummed. Inside, silence reigned. Then, her voice, low, unsteady, singing softly into the stillness. Joy sat cross-legged on the floor, watching a live stream service on her phone. A pastor preached softly in the background. A gospel singer played piano. Tears streamed silently down her face. Kazuo propped himself up slowly, wincing. He watched her. The flickering light cast shadows across her cheeks, but her face, tilted heavenward, was radiant. She whispered aloud through tears, "Even if you never answer the way I asked, I still believe you're good." Kazuo swallowed hard. He had seen violence. He had caused it. But this quiet surrender, it undid him more than any blade ever could. When the video ended, Joy wiped her face and stood, only to freeze when she saw Kazuo watching her. She sniffed, embarrassed. "Didn't think you were awake." "I wasn't," he rasped. "Then I heard you singing." She smiled faintly, tucking hair behind her ear. "Sorry, don't be." He hesitated. "Your piece, it's loud." Joy tilted her head. "Loud?" Kazuo nodded slowly. "Louder than gunshots. Louder than my nightmares. You praying like that, crying, but still singing?" His voice lowered. "How?" She looked at him for a long time, then walked over and sat near his side. "Because the God I serve isn't just real when things are perfect. He's real especially when they're not." Kazuo stared at her, and for the first time he looked small, young, almost lost. He just lay back, staring at the ceiling, eyes unfocused. Joy stood, pulled a blanket over him, and sat on the nearby bench. She whispered one last prayer before turning off the lamp. "God, whatever you're doing in him, don't let me get in the way." Later that night, Kazuo stirred. The room was dim now, lit only by the moon outside and the faint glow of the hallway. He turned his head and saw her, Joy, fast asleep on the clinic bench, arms folded, knees curled up, mouth slightly open in a soft sigh. Something in him cracked, a quiet awe, maybe even grief, because no one had ever stayed like this before. Not in danger, not in silence, not in prayer. He watched her for a long time. Not with lust, but with longing, with reverence, as though she was something holy he'd never been allowed to touch. And he whispered into the dark, "Don't save me if it'll destroy you." She didn't try to fix him. She stood beside the ashes, believing God could raise him from them. The hills outside the clinic were gold with sunrise. Joy sat on the front step, sipping tea from a chipped ceramic cup. Scripture filled her journal. Her Bible sat open beside her. The wind stirred pages gently, like fingers turning them. Behind her, the door creaked. Kazuo stepped out slowly, barefoot, shirtless, bandages still wrapped across his side. His eyes were puffy. He hadn't slept much. Joy turned. "You should be resting." "I did," he replied, "until the nightmares woke me." He eased down beside her on the stone step, wincing slightly. Silence stretched between them, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It had weight, like something waiting to be said. Finally, he spoke. "My father was murdered in front of me when I was 10, he said, gaze locked on the horizon. "Shot in the head while holding my hand." Joy didn't speak. She didn't move. He continued, "They said it was a rival gang, but I knew better. My uncle Jiro, he wanted the seat, the crown, the name, and I became the pawn. He took a breath, voice growing thinner. At 17, I was handed a gun and told, "Prove you're worthy, or die like your father did." Joy's fingers tensed around her teacup. Kazuo's jaw clenched. "I pulled the trigger, Joy. I killed a man. My first. There were more after that. Some guilty, some not." He turned to her, expecting horror. But she just looked at him, software steady, present. "I don't tell you this to shock you," he added. "I tell you because when you pray over me, it feels like you're touching a grave." Joy set her teacup down. Her voice was gentle but clear. "You think God can't love you because you're unclean." Kazuo didn't answer, so she leaned in just enough to meet his eyes. "God doesn't call the clean, Kazuo. He cleans the called." He turned away, visibly shaken. "I wasn't supposed to live like this," he muttered. "What did you want?" she asked. He laughed, hollow. "I wanted to be a painter." Joy blinked. He looked down, embarrassed. "Watercolors. I liked how they bled, how nothing could be perfect, just color moving freely." She smiled faintly. "You still can." "No," he said firmly. "That boy's dead." Joy paused. "God resurrects dead things, Kazuo, but he waits until they want to live again." Their eyes met, and for a moment, there was something between them. Not touch, not flirtation, but recognition. Like two souls learning each other's edges. That afternoon, they left the clinic for the first time. Kazuo needed air. She needed answers. She drove. He stared out the window. As they passed a small town, Joy spotted a quaint, weathered church tucked into a hillside. A wooden sign read, "He who comes to me, I will never cast out." John 6 verse 37. She slowed the car. "What is this?" Kazuo asked, sitting up. "My father always said, if you don't want to talk to people, talk to God first." Kazuo stared at the steeple, then at her. Her voice dropped. No pressure. But the door's open. They stepped out. The wind stirred. The church was old but clean. Stone walls, ivy-covered windows, a brass cross that had dulled with age. Kazuo stood before the wooden door, hands trembling slightly. Joy didn't push him. She didn't touch him. She just waited. Quiet. Near. He stared at the handle. Memories rushed in. Blood. Voices yelling. His mother's tears. His uncle's threats. And then, Joy's voice. Software steady. Sacred. "I'll be right here." Kazuo took one step forward. His hand hovered over the door, but he didn't move. From behind, Joy watched him. This wasn't just about faith. It was about choice. For a man who had never chosen anything except survival, this moment was everything. His breath hitched. His fingers brushed the wood. But he couldn't go in. Not yet. Not today. He turned to her, eyes full of pain. "I don't know how to believe." Joy stepped closer, close enough to feel the pain between them, but not cross into it. "You don't have to know how," she whispered. "You just have to want to." And silently, she prayed he would. Kazuo hadn't spoken for most of the evening. The wound on his side, though healing, had reopened slightly from the drive, and the fever had returned. He lay on the clinic cot again, sheets tangled, sweat on his forehead, jaw clenched against the pain. Joy moved gently around him, whispering words under her breath. Prayers, short and firm, not desperate, but rooted. "Lord, I know you see him. I know you're working. Let peace come. Let healing come." even now. She wrung out a cool cloth and sat beside him, brushing the damp strands of hair from his brow. His skin was warm, too warm, but his eyes, half-lidded and distant, were focused only on her. "You, always here," he murmured, voice hoarse. Joy smiled faintly. "I said I would be." Time slowed. The oil lamp beside the bed flickered low, casting shadows across the room. It was quiet, except for the night wind and the sound of his uneven breaths. Joy pressed the cloth gently against his forehead. Kazuo's hand reached up, weak, unsure, and barely brushed her wrist. Her pulse kicked, his gaze locked on hers. No mask, no bravado, just raw humanity. "I don't know what this is," he whispered. "This feeling, this quiet." Joy didn't move. "It's peace." He reached up, slowly, reverently, his fingers moving toward her cheek. She saw it in his eyes before he even leaned in. The ache, the desire to feel something clean, something holy, something safe. But before their lips could meet, she pulled back, softly, slowly, with no anger, only truth. "You're not ready." Kazuo froze. Embarrassment bloomed in his face. His hand dropped. His expression hardened. "Do you think I'm weak?" he asked, voice low. "Do you think I don't know what I want?" Joy exhaled deeply, still seated beside him. "No. I think you're hurting. And I think right now, you want rescue, not relationship." His voice cut sharper. "You think I'm a project." Her eyes softened. "No. I think you're a prayer." Kazuo blinked. She stood and turned slightly, keeping her tone tender, but unwavering. "I'm not here to be your escape. I'm not here to be your savior. I'm just here because God told me to be." He swallowed hard. She looked at him one last time before blowing out the lamp. "And I'm not going anywhere, but I won't let pain define what we call love." Joy slept on the bench again that night, curled beneath a thin blanket, hands folded under her cheek. Her Bible lay open beside her. Kazuo didn't sleep. He lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Chest heavy, heart hollow. Everything she said echoed like thunder in the silence. A prayer, not a project, not a conquest, but something God had trusted her with. He closed his eyes. Then, a soft ding. His phone, hidden beneath the mattress, lit up with a single message from an encrypted line. "You want to save her? Then stay away. One more day with her, and she dies." His breath caught. No name, just a location ping and a photo. Joy, smiling in town earlier, laughing, oblivious. Kazuo stared at the photo for a long time, then whispered, "They found her." And for the first time in his life, he wasn't afraid for himself. He was afraid of what they'd make him do to keep her safe. Kazuo stood by the window of the countryside clinic, hands gripping the ledge, breathing shallow. The sky outside was bruised with morning gray. Mountains loomed in silence, as if the world itself was waiting. The photo on his phone still haunted him. Joy, smiling in town, unaware. And the message, "One more day with her, and she dies." He heard footsteps behind him, quiet, familiar. Joy's voice was soft, but sure. "You didn't sleep again." Kazuo didn't turn. "I need you to leave." The words sliced the air like a blade. Joy froze. "Excuse me?" He turned now, eyes hollow. "Go back to Seoul. Book a flight home. Today." Her eyes searched his face. Why? I don't owe you reasons. Don't lie to me. His jaw tightened. Because being near me will get you killed. Joy crossed the room slowly. You don't think I've known that since the night you bled across a velvet couch and told me I should be afraid of you? He looked down. This is different. They know who you are now. I'm not afraid. You should be, he shouted. His voice cracked. Do you think I care about their threats? I've handled worse. I've lived through hell. But if something happens to you, he paused, then whispered, barely audible, I don't know who I'll become. Joy stepped closer. You think if you push me away, I'll be safe. But it's not my safety you're trying to protect. It's your guilt. Kazuo blinked, stunned. She held his gaze, steady, fierce. You're afraid of needing someone. You're afraid that if I stay, you'll hope again. And if something happens to me, you'll fall apart. He didn't answer, but his silence screamed. Joy's voice gentled. Kazuo, you don't have to fight this alone. Then she reached for him. At first, he flinched, like her touch burned. Then, he collapsed. His knees hit the floor first. Then his hands pressed to the wood. Then his head bowed, shoulders trembling, breath breaking. I've done things. Joy, you don't know what I've done. I don't care, she whispered, sinking beside him. His body shook with sobs, raw, guttural, the kind that hadn't been let out since boyhood, the kind that only come from carrying death in your soul. Joy pulled him to her, cradling his head against her shoulder. She said nothing, just let him weep. She held the weight of his shame and didn't shift beneath it. After a long silence, he whispered, I would burn the whole world to keep you safe. Joy didn't move. Her voice was soft. Then trust the one who already died to save us both. Later, he fell asleep, exhausted from the breakdown, his head in her lap. Joy stayed there, legs folded beneath her, one hand gently stroking his hair. Her other hand rested on her open Bible beside her. The soft glow of the oil lamp lit the pages like they were breathing. She looked down at him. His breathing was slow now, steady. The storm had quieted, but the wreckage still clung to his face. She didn't know when it happened, this shift inside her. Maybe it was the night he asked why God would love someone like him. Or maybe it was when he wept without shame in her arms and didn't try to make it look strong. But somewhere between all the darkness and all the quiet, she had fallen in love with Kazuo Takeda. Not the heir, not the criminal, the man beneath the ruin. And yet, it wasn't the kind of love that rushed ahead of God. Not the kind that begged for a kiss or craved a title. It was the kind that waits, the kind that prays, the kind that stays, even if it's never returned. She took a trembling breath and dared to whisper it aloud. I love you, Kazuo Takeda, but I'll never love you more than I love God. She didn't expect him to hear it. She only hoped. His soul would. The sun rose over the valley, and the clinic came alive with gentle birdsong and the hum of morning. Joy stepped out to buy groceries, just down the road. 10 minutes. She never made it back. Kazuo woke to an empty clinic. No note, no text. Only her phone, sitting on the bench beside her Bible. Then a knock at the door. A delivery man stood holding a package. Kazuo opened it with shaking hands. Inside, a video file on a flash drive. He plugged it into the laptop. The screen flickered. Joy, bound, gagged, silent. Behind her, Jiro's voice. Calm, amused. You were warned. She's not a healer anymore. She's leverage. Kazuo's eyes filled with fire, not rage, resolve. He whispered to the screen, I'm coming. Kazuo stood beneath the red haze of dawn. his shirt soaked through with sweat, jaw clenched, eyes hard. Behind him, the black car door slammed shut. Inside it sat 3 men, weapons loaded, orders silent. He didn't speak, didn't blink, didn't breathe, until they reached the Takeda estate, his uncle's stronghold, where blood had always bought silence. Jiro Takeda reclined at the head of a long lacquered table, sipping oolong tea. He didn't look surprised when Kazuo stormed through the doors. He only smiled. Well, the prodigal finally returns. But not alone this time, Who is she, Kazuo? Your savior? Or your sin? Kazuo didn't answer. He stepped forward and dropped a flash drive onto the table. It played the video back. Joy, bound, gagged. His voice dropped to gravel. Where is she? Jiro sipped slowly. Safe. For now. Kazuo's nostrils flared. Jiro leaned forward. If she matters to you, she'll be your undoing. Let me do you a favor. Walk away now, and I'll spare her. Try to act like a hero, and I'll make her scream. Kazuo moved faster than thought. He slammed Jiro's face against the table, then pulled his blade. The room erupted into chaos. Men drew guns. Kazuo cut through them like smoke through a storm. Swift, cold, precise. No hesitation. No mercy. He reached Jiro again, dragged him across the room, threw him against the wall. Blood dripped from the man's mouth. Do it, Jiro spat. Kill me like your father. Kazuo raised the blade to Jiro's throat. His uncle smirked. Just like I raised you. But then he froze. Vengeance isn't justice. Joy's voice echoed in his head, clear, calm, and trembling with love. And justice doesn't come through the blade. It comes through the cross. Kazuo blinked. His hands shook. For the first time in his life, he didn't want to win. He wanted to walk away. Because killing this man wouldn't save Joy. It would only kill him. He lowered the blade. Jiro stared, stunned. Kazuo stepped back. I'm done with you, and with all of this. He turned to the room of stunned guards. I'm trading it, all of it. The seat, the title, the family, every contract, every coin, every city. Jiro coughed. For what? Kazuo looked him dead in the eye. For her freedom. Joy was released that evening. No bruises, no wounds. Just tears in her eyes and fire in her spine. She saw Kazuo waiting by the riverbank. Alone. He didn't say a word when she stepped into view. She ran to him. He didn't catch her. She held him. He stood still. I told you I wasn't afraid, she whispered. He spoke low. You should have been. Then, sirens, black vans, police, old charges, organized crime, conspiracy, weapon possession, and more. Kazuo didn't resist. He turned and let them cuff his hands behind him. Joy stepped forward. Wait, no. He turned it all in. He let it go. The officer shook his head. Doesn't matter. His sins still carry weight. Kazuo looked over his shoulder, eyes soft, but free. I'm not running anymore. Joy blinked back tears. But you just... I know. He smiled faintly. It's okay. Maybe I needed a cell to finally feel clean. They took him then. She didn't chase. She didn't scream. She stood on the riverbank in the fading light, her hands shaking, but her faith unshaken. Kazuo sat in the police van, staring through the bars at the sky. It was the first sunset he'd noticed in years, and for the first time his heart whispered, even if he slay me, yet will I trust him. Chains can hold a body, but grace frees the soul, and love Real love waits where faith stands still. 6 months later, the prison gates loomed tall in the gray morning light. Cold air swept across the compound. Inside, everything was steel, silence, and motion. Officers pacing, inmates in uniforms moving through the yard. But one thing was different. In the far corner of Block C, beneath a flickering light, a circle of inmates sat cross-legged, worn Bibles open on their laps, listening. At the center sat Kazuo Takeda, no longer the heir to a legacy of blood, but a man walking the edge of freedom from the inside out. God didn't wait for me to clean myself up, Kazuo spoke quietly. He just waited for me to stop running. One of the inmates, tattoos crawling up his throat, whispered, "So, even we can be forgiven?" Kazuo nodded. "I was worse, and I'm still here, still being changed." The group bowed their heads as Kazuo led prayer. From the glass observation window, Joy watched silently. A soft smile curled at her lips. Later, Joy sat in the visitation booth. No makeup, a simple blue sweater. Around her neck hung a hand-carved wooden cross. Rough, imperfect, and sacred. She waited. The door buzzed. Kazuo stepped in. Hair shorter, eyes clearer, posture humble, but still Kazuo, still the man she loved. He sat down across from her, the glass between them reflecting the journey neither could erase. Joy placed her hand on the glass. Kazuo mirrored it, his palm pressed gently to hers. Neither spoke for a long moment. Then Joy broke the silence, voice soft and trembling with held-back joy. "So, what are you now? A preacher?" Kazuo chuckled, head tilted. "Still your patient." They both smiled. But this time, it wasn't painful. He nodded toward her cross. "You're still wearing it." Joy touched it lightly. "You made it for me with broken wood and a dull edge. You deserved gold." "I don't need gold, I needed this. Because it reminds me, God uses broken things." Kazuo's voice lowered. "They told me I might be released early. Some of the victims I hurt testified on my behalf, said they forgave me, said I tried to protect them when I could." Joy blinked, tears slipping quietly. "That's not nothing, Kazuo." "It's grace," he whispered. She nodded. "Exactly." They both pressed their fingers to the glass, tracing outlines like they were touching skin. But they weren't desperate. They weren't rushing. They were sure. Kazuo leaned forward, voice trembling. "Do you still pray for me?" Joy smiled through her tears. "Every day, and not like I used to." "Oh," she chuckled. "Back then, I prayed you'd stop pushing me away. Now, I pray God keeps pulling you deeper in." He swallowed hard. "I love you, Joy Daniels." She closed her eyes. "I know," then opened them again. "And I love you. But we're not rushing this." He nodded. "No bars can hold me from doing this the right way." They both smiled and stayed still. No kiss, no fairy tale music, just hands on glass, hearts tethered by grace. He thought he found peace in her, but really, they both found it in Christ. The metal gate slid open with a groan that echoed in Kazuo Takeda's chest. He stepped forward slowly, sunlight hitting his skin for the first time without bars in months. His hair was shorter now, face leaner, the sharp angles of his jaw more defined. No gold watch, no entourage, just a plain white button-up shirt, gray slacks, and worn sneakers. The past was behind him, and yet its shadow still clung to his shoulders. The parole officer handed him a manila folder. "Sign here." You're assigned to the Junwon House for transitional rehabilitation, daily check-ins, twice weekly labor, GPS tracker until further notice. Kazuo signed without a word. He didn't ask what he was allowed to keep. He'd already lost everything, except her. The halfway house was old but clean. 3 stories of peeling paint and second chances. The residents didn't look at him like a legend, just another man trying to breathe without a number strapped to his name. Kazuo unpacked slowly. A cot. A Bible Joy had sent. No mirrors. He didn't want one. Later that afternoon, he was assigned to assist in renovations for a local community health center, one newly built on the edge of the old Takeda-controlled district. He didn't expect to see her that soon, but he turned a corner, and there she was. Joy Daniels, wearing navy scrubs, clipboard in hand, curls pinned up messily. Her face was brighter than he remembered, older somehow, stronger. She looked up. Their eyes met. Time caught its breath. Joy froze for half a second, then smiled. A real one, the kind that reached her eyes. He didn't move. She walked to him. Not too fast, not slow, just enough to meet him without pressure. They stood inches apart. She searched his face, then touched his arm lightly. "You okay?" she whispered. He nodded once. "Yeah." "You sure?" He nodded again, slower. "I am now." They stood like that, surrounded by people moving ladders and paint buckets, but wrapped in stillness. He tried to speak again, failed. She didn't push him. Instead, she reached into her pocket and pulled out something small, a thin bracelet with a wooden bead at the center. She slid it onto his wrist. He looked at her. "What is this?" "Olive wood," she said. "From Jerusalem. A friend brought it for me, but I think you need it more." He stared at it for a moment. Then her. "You don't have to earn your place with me, Kazuo." Her voice broke slightly. "You already have it." The day continued quietly. Kazuo helped patch walls and carry supplies. Joy moved through rooms with calm command, but whispers traveled faster than drywall dust. "That's him, right?" "Joy's the pastor's daughter. Why is he here?" "Didn't he kill someone?" "She's putting her name on a murderer." She heard them. So did he. But neither spoke of it. At lunch, they sat outside near the lot behind the clinic. A folding table, 2 paper cups of barley tea. Kazuo took a sip. "You hear it, too." Joy stirred her cup. "I do." He looked up. "Does it bother you?" She smiled without looking at him. "Not as much as it bothers them that I'm not ashamed." He let out a quiet breath, almost a laugh. "I've forgotten how much fight lives in your spine. And I forgot how quiet you are when you're not hiding." As the sky faded to dusk, Kazuo helped clean up equipment behind the clinic. Joy was inside talking to a new volunteer. He stepped into the alley to toss a box and froze. A man stood there, leaning against the opposite wall. Sharp suit, cold eyes, a familiar scar across his lip. He lit a cigarette slowly, didn't smile, didn't speak, just watched. Kazuo tensed. The man gave a slight nod, as if to say, "I know where you are now," then disappeared into the shadows. Kazuo stood still, hands clenched, heart suddenly pounding. He wasn't afraid for himself, but the peace they were building, it wasn't safe, and someone had just declared war on it. Redemption rarely shines from a stage. It often bleeds in the background, quietly, where shadows still whisper and grace dares to answer back. Joy stood at the front of her expanding clinic, clipboard in hand, greeting a row of high school volunteers. Laughter and movement filled the space. A new youth mentorship wing was being added, with reading lounges, art therapy, and a small prayer room. Her vision was becoming reality. But outside, the gossip moved faster than the cement drying beneath her feet. Whispers in the hallway, "That's her, right? Pastor Daniel's daughter?" "Mm-hmm. You didn't hear? She's letting an ex-gang leader work with kids. And she's still wearing his bracelet. Lord, help her." Joy heard it all. She didn't flinch. But when Kazuo passed by holding a stack of new program flyers, head lowered, quiet as ever, she saw the way people moved around him. Not with him, around him. That night, Joy sat alone in the clinic chapel, hands clasped, Bible open. Her phone vibrated softly. "Dad," she answered. "Hi, Daddy." "Joy?" His voice was firm, but tired. "We need to talk." She leaned back. "You saw the church bulletin, didn't you?" "I saw more than that. I saw your name at the bottom of a petition. Half the church board signed it." She closed her eyes. "They're scared," he sighed. "No, they're small. There's a difference. But Joy, I'm your father. I know what you're made of. And I know when you're carrying something too heavy on your own." She whispered, "I'm not alone." "I know, but even Christ had people mocking him when he healed on the wrong day." Joy smiled faintly. "Then I'm in good company." The next day, Kazuo stayed late after the volunteers left. He swept the back corridor in silence, earbuds in. As he turned the corner, he caught the sound of glass shattering. He paused. Another crash. He bolted into the prayer room and saw a teen boy, no more than 17, with dark eyes and a metal bat in his hand, smashing a stack of framed verses on the wall. The boy didn't look surprised to see him. He looked daring. "What? You gonna drag me out?" the kid spat. "Break my fingers? I know who you are. You're Takeda's ghost." Kazuo's eyes narrowed. "Put the bat down." The boy stepped forward. "You think cleaning floors and quoting God makes you holy now?" Kazuo didn't answer. "I heard my brother talk about you," the boy muttered, before he disappeared. "Said you betrayed the code." Kazuo blinked. "Who was your father?" The boy's jaw tightened. "My mother never told me, but she said his blood was poison. Said he had a scar on his lip and worked for someone named Jiro." The room fell silent. Kazuo stepped back, shaken. His hand dropped from the broom to his side. Because that description could mean Jiro, could mean Kazuo himself. Kazuo didn't yell. He didn't flinch. He just walked to the boy and gently took the bat from his hand. The boy let go. Kazuo looked him in the eye. "Go home, or wherever you call that now." "You gonna tell Joy?" "No." "Why not?" Kazuo swallowed. "Because once, someone caught me breaking something and didn't tell the cops either." The boy hesitated. "Why not?" Kazuo's voice cracked. "Because he saw what I could be, not what I was." Later that night, Kazuo sat alone in the clinic office, staring at the broken verses still lying on the floor. Joy entered, quiet. He stood slowly. "I need to ask you something." "Okay." "If someone's lost, but maybe not by accident, would you still help them?" Joy tilted her head. "What do you mean?" Kazuo hesitated. "Would you still pray for someone if they reminded you of everything you were trying to forget?" Joy stepped closer. "Kazuo, who is he?" Kazuo looked up. Eyes haunted, distant. "I don't know, but he might be my brother. Or worse," he thought. "He might be Jiro's son." Kazuo leaned over a garden bed, dirt on his gloves, sweat along his brow. It was early morning, and the air carried a strange peace, the kind he never felt in the city, or the syndicate, or prison. He was trimming rosemary when a voice interrupted. "Takeda!" He turned. A man in a navy blazer stepped forward. Pastor Elijah Cho, Director of Youth Reform Ministries. Kazuo wiped his hands, cautious. Can I help you? Elijah offered a small envelope. We're hosting a testimony series at the Dachin Youth Correctional Facility next week. I want you to speak. Kazuo froze. Speak? You were once them. Now you're not. That matters. Kazuo stared at the envelope like it was radioactive. Find someone else. And he walked away, before the shame caught up to him. Later that afternoon, Joy was being interviewed by a local Christian news station. The clinic had been named a model for faith-based reentry and healing, and she was the face of it. Cameras, lights, mic clipped to her collar. She wore a navy blue blouse, and around her neck was the wooden cross Kazuo had carved in prison. The reporter noticed. That's beautiful. Local. Joy smiled. Handmade, by someone most people would call dangerous. And you trust him? I do. Why? Her answer was gentle, clear. Because God trusted me with his healing, and I've never seen someone fight harder to become a man no one thought he could be. Kazuo stood in the back of the hallway watching the broadcast through a cracked door. Her words landed like lightning in his chest, but the guilt still clawed. That evening, Joy found him seated alone in the small chapel room, Bible open, but untouched. You didn't take the speaking request, she said quietly. No. Why? Kazuo didn't look up. Because I don't deserve to speak to anyone. Joy walked over slowly. You know what I keep thinking? He said nothing. She sat beside him, folding her hands in her lap. Your body is out, but your shame's still locked up. He turned sharply. You think I want this? To walk past people who whisper? To be treated like a stray dog they're forced to feed? Joy didn't flinch. Then stop living like it. His breath caught. She continued, softer now. If your freedom isn't used for others, it's not freedom. It's fear. Kazuo looked down at his hands. What if I mess up? Joy's voice trembled. Then fall forward, not backward. That night, Kazuo found the teen again. Kai. He was quiet lately, watching, waiting. Kazuo caught him sketching in the corner of the mentorship room. Rough pencil strokes, faces, knives, fire. You draw? Kai didn't look up. When I don't want to fight. Kazuo sat beside him. What do you want to fight? Kai muttered. Everything. 2 days later. During a group activity, Kazuo watched from the hallway as Kai's new mentor, Mr. Jin, corrected him gently on a worksheet. Kai snapped. I said back off. He threw the paper, lunged, and knocked over the desk. Mr. Jin tried to stop him, but Kai shoved him against the wall and raised a stapler like a blade. Staff ran in. Kazuo pushed through the crowd, grabbing Kai's wrist before it cracked down. Their eyes locked, and then Kai screamed, I'm not afraid of you, Takeda. The room froze. Kazuo didn't flinch. He just let go slowly and whispered, I wish I had been afraid of someone, back when I still had a choice. Later that night, Kazuo sat alone again, this time with the envelope in his hand. He opened it. Inside, nothing complicated. Just the word, testify. He closed his eyes. He didn't feel ready. But maybe God wasn't waiting on his readiness. Maybe God was waiting on his yes. Now it wasn't the handcuffs that humiliated him. It was the way they looked at her, as if loving him made her unclean. It happened just after sunrise. Kazuo was washing paint rollers outside the clinic when the unmarked black car rolled in, lights flashing behind the windshield. 3 officers. Neutral tone. Paperwork. We have a warrant for the arrest of Kazuo Takeda. Charges tied to a robbery in 2016. resulting in injury to a civilian. You'll need to come with us. Kazuo blinked slowly. That crime? He remembered it. He wasn't there. But his name had been attached to everything the Takeda Syndicate did back then, including what others carried out in his name. He didn't fight it. He just raised his hands and whispered, "I'm not that man anymore." Joy was in the middle of setting up for morning devotions at the clinic when her phone rang. When she heard the officer's voice, her legs went numb. "No," she breathed. "This isn't real." Within an hour, the church board had called, one by one, coded concern, faux compassion. "Joy, we're not judging, but the optics. Maybe step away from the clinic for now. Let things settle. The press is circling, and frankly, it puts your father's ministry in an awkward position." Even Pastor Daniels called. His voice was strained. "Joy, I raised you with discernment. Don't let your loyalty cloud your purpose." Joy didn't argue. She didn't defend. She just said, "I know who he is and who God is. That's enough for me." The courthouse hallway was loud with murmurs. Kazuo sat at the defendant's table, wrists now free, suit too tight across his shoulders. His lawyer spoke beside him, fast and technical. But Kazuo barely heard anything. He was watching the door, waiting, praying. "Please don't come. They'll tear her apart." The door opened. Joy stepped in. Every head turned. She wore a pale blue dress. No makeup, no jewelry, except the wooden cross he carved for her. She didn't hesitate. She didn't glance at the reporters. She walked straight to the front bench and sat down right beside him. Kazuo stared at her. She met his eyes and nodded once. "If I can't stand with you now," she whispered, "then I never truly stood with you at all." The trial was short. Surveillance footage from the original crime was re-examined. A confession letter surfaced from another Takeda member, dead for 3 years now. Kazuo was cleared, but the media didn't care. The headline read, "Ex-Takeda figure walks free again, thanks to the pastor's daughter." And the looks that followed Joy on the courthouse steps weren't kind. Kazuo watched them glare, not at him, at her, and something inside him broke. He whispered to her, hoarse, as they stood beneath the gray sky, "I would have rather stayed behind bars than see them treat you like this." Joy reached up, touched his face gently. "No," she said. "You needed to walk free, and I needed to prove to myself that I wouldn't run when it got ugly." She smiled softly. "Grace costs something, and today, it cost me pride." That evening, they returned to the clinic. The parking lot was half empty. Some staff had called out. The mail slot overflowed with anonymous notes. Shame on her. The clinic should be shut down. She should know better. Kazuo stood at the threshold. He turned to her. "You still want me here?" Joy took his hand, laced her fingers through his. Her answer was simple. If they're watching, let them see the gospel walk. But as they stepped inside, neither of them noticed the shadow watching from across the street. Kai, the teen. Expression unreadable. Eyes simmering. Fists clenched. Inside the clinic, the light flickered. Outside, the next war was watching. And this time, it wasn't legal. It was personal. He once rose from water to kill. This time, he rose to live. Kazuo hadn't walked the halls of a prison in over a year. Now he entered through the front gate, not in handcuffs, not in shame, but still in silence. The youth correctional facility felt colder than the one he'd known. Cleaner, tighter, less violent, but not less hopeless. Eyes followed him as he passed, some wide with recognition, others narrowed with unspoken challenge. He stood in the front of the small rec room with a folding chair behind him, a simple mic in front. Nothing about him looked special. And yet, everybody sat still because they knew the legend. But they'd never met the man. Kazuo adjusted the mic and cleared his throat. He didn't speak like a preacher. He didn't quote verses. He just told the truth. I killed with my hands. Before I ever killed with a weapon. I killed by following silence, by staying loyal to devils. I thought being feared was the same as being respected. I thought being obeyed meant I mattered. But there's no peace in shadows, just survival. And survival isn't the same as living. He paused, breath catching. But I met someone who saw what was buried under the rot, who stayed when I told her to run, who said, God still wants you. And I chose to believe her. The room didn't applaud. It didn't have to. He wasn't performing. He was surrendering. After the youth left, Kazuo stayed behind in the facility's tiny chapel. Empty now except for 2 ministers and a rectangular pool behind a curtain. He stepped into the water slowly, shoes off, shirt clinging to his chest. His body, once drenched in blood for loyalty to a man like Jiro, now stood still in the water for the sake of Christ. The minister whispered, Do you believe Jesus Christ is Lord of your life? Kazuo answered clearly, I do. The water closed over him, and for a moment it felt like death again. But this time, he rose. It was nearly dusk when Joy arrived. She found him in the staff locker room, seated on a bench near the wall, towel over his head, chest damp beneath a gray cotton shirt. He didn't look up when she entered. Joy walked softly, kneeling in front of him, hands resting gently on his knees. Kazuo lifted the towel slowly. Their eyes met. No one spoke. He reached into his shirt pocket and pulled out the cross, the one he had carved in prison. He placed it in her hands. His voice was hoarse. I forgot to wear it, but I didn't forget what it meant. Joy blinked back tears. I know. They stayed there, knees brushing, hands trembling. And then, slowly, reverently, he reached for her face, not to claim, not to possess, but to see. Joy leaned forward, not rushed, not swayed by the moment, but anchored in it. Their foreheads touched first. Then, the gentlest press of lips, barely there. No heat, just home. When they pulled away, his breath was uneven. Joy smiled through misted lashes, then whispered, Now we build, not rush. Kazuo rested his forehead against hers and whispered back, Then let's build something the fire can't burn. Or Joy didn't want a diamond. She wanted olive wood. Kazuo carved the ring himself. Simple, smooth, dark. The same wood he'd once used to shape her cross. She wore it like a secret on her hand, never flaunting it, never removing it. The wedding would be quiet. Small chapel, no stage, no lights, just a covenant and a cross between them. But even still, the past lingered. Kazuo sat on the floor of the halfway house, back pressed to the wall of his bunk, knees up, breathing ragged. His hands trembled. He couldn't explain it. The closer the date came, the louder the voices returned. You're still Takeda's son. You'll ruin her. This peace won't last. He heard Joy humming in the kitchen, soft, peaceful, and it made it worse. She was too good, too strong, too safe, and he was still learning how to be harmless. Joy appeared in the doorway, apron on, sleeves rolled, smile warm. You okay? He looked up, eyes dark, and whispered, What if marrying me paints a target on your back again? Joy walked over, knelt, and reached for his hand. Her voice didn't shake. Then I wear it with my cross. The next week, Joy worked late again, managing clinic paperwork, counseling 2 young mothers, and finalizing wedding logistics. She hadn't eaten since morning. Kazuo found her slumped against the clinic hallway wall, papers scattered, her breath shallow. Joy! She stirred faintly. Kazuo swept her into his arms, panic rushing through his veins like fire. At the hospital, the doctor explained gently, "It's not life-threatening, but it is serious. Her body is showing signs of extreme fatigue and nutritional stress. Her blood pressure dropped. She needs rest, mental, emotional, physical." Kazuo sat beside her hospital bed that night, holding her hand, his face buried in her palm. He whispered through gritted teeth, "I wanted to protect you from everything out there, but I never thought I'd be the pressure in here." Joy woke hours later. She saw Kazuo asleep in the chair beside her, head tilted, hands still wrapped around hers. She whispered, "You're not the weight, Kazuo. You're the promise." He stirred slowly. "Why didn't you tell me you were this tired?" "I thought I could carry it." "You don't have to." Joy smiled faintly. "That's why it's called a yoke. 2 people, 1 burden, 1 savior." They pushed the wedding back 2 weeks, not to cancel, to breathe, to rest, to rebuild the altar. They stripped it all down. Fewer flowers, simpler clothes, less pressure, more prayer, more stillness. They stopped trying to make the wedding look like redemption and just let it be redemption. One night, Joy looked out the clinic window, ring on her finger, Bible in her lap. Kazuo stepped beside her and whispered, "You still sure?" She turned to him, eyes soft but blazing with faith. "I'm not walking toward a wedding dress, Kazuo. I'm walking toward a covenant." Some blessings don't come with thunder. They come with trembling hands and permission given through tears. Kazuo didn't expect the knock. It came early one morning. The clinic was still quiet. The air smelled like disinfectant and chamomile tea. He opened the door to find Pastor Daniel standing on the threshold, Bible under one arm, shoulders squared. Kazuo froze. They hadn't spoken in person since the court date. The pastor's voice was even. "May I come in?" Kazuo stepped aside. He led him to the chapel room, small, silent, echoing with prayers no one else heard. They sat. Neither spoke at first. Then, Pastor Daniels folded his hands and whispered, "I've been asking God what to say to you for months." Kazuo looked down. "If it's a warning, I've already been warned." "No," the older man said gently. "It's not a warning. It's a release." Kazuo's brows furrowed. "What do you mean?" The pastor leaned forward. His eyes glistened, not with rage, but with something heavier, something holy. "You're not stealing my daughter, Kazuo. You're leading her somewhere I can't, and that's what scares me." Kazuo's throat closed. He tried to speak, failed. Pastor Daniels continued, "I raised her for safety. God raised her for obedience. And when I saw how she stood by you, I knew. I knew he'd chosen you to walk her through the part of life I never could." Kazuo blinked hard. His jaw trembled. The pastor placed the Bible between them. "You don't need my approval, but I needed to tell you. I see Christ in you now. And I've never wept harder in prayer than the night I let go and trusted God to give her to a man I once couldn't imagine worthy." Kazuo lowered his head into his hands. For a long moment, nothing. Then, tears. Not loud, not broken, just undeniable. The second time he'd cried in his adult life. The first was when Joy held him at his lowest. This time, it was a father releasing his daughter into his care. And somehow, it felt heavier. but holier. Pastor Daniels reached across the small table and gripped Kazuo's forearm. You're not who you were, so don't let the enemy shame you for becoming better. Kazuo looked up, tears sliding silently down his cheeks. I love her, he said simply. The pastor nodded. Then love her with Christ at the center, not shadows from your past. He leans forward, voice thick with conviction. Don't let the man you were decide how you love her. Let the Savior who saved you show you how. Later that evening, Joy stood at the back of the clinic, laughing with a few kids from the mentorship program. Her color had returned. Her hair was pinned up with care. She moved slowly, but joyfully. Kazuo watched from a distance. She turned, and their eyes met. He raised his hand. She smiled and waved back. He mouthed, soon. She nodded once. Soon. 1 month later, the courtyard behind the halfway house had once been gravel and rust. Now it was strung with paper flowers, folded by men who used to count their days in silence. The folding chairs didn't match. The tablecloths were borrowed. The sound system crackled slightly every few minutes. But none of it mattered, because today was not about spectacle. It was about surrender, about sacredness. Joy stood inside the small staff room where she'd once written patient reports and filed prescriptions. Now, she stood in front of the mirror, breath caught, wearing the simplest gown she'd ever owned. It was soft cream, no sparkle, no train, but her cross gleamed against her chest, polished, steady, carved from the hands of a man no one else believed could change. She took one breath, then another. Her father stepped into the doorway, holding back tears. You ready? Joy turned. Her eyes shined. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. Kazuo stood beneath the string lights in a black suit. His hair was combed neatly, his posture calm, but his eyes never left the path Joy would walk down. Worship music played, soft, real. Guitar chords strummed by a former inmate with a calloused fingers and a new heart. The moment she appeared, Kazuo's breath left his body. Joy didn't float. She walked with weight, with peace, with knowing. And when she reached him, neither of them said a word. The presence of God wrapped around them. No preacher stood between them, only their joined hands. Kazuo went first. His voice was low, but clear. You loved me when I didn't know how to love myself. You showed me the gospel in the way you stood, not loud, not desperate, but steady. I don't vow to be perfect, but I vow to repent quickly. I vow to carry you when the world calls you foolish, and I vow to follow Christ first, so I never lead you astray. Joy was already crying, but she spoke through it, voice shaking. I never wanted a perfect man, just a man who knew where grace lives. You found it. And now, I get to walk with you toward a future we never earned, but one he gave us anyway. There was no applause, no shouting, only a quiet pause. Then, their first kiss as husband and wife. Software slow, not claimed, but given. A seal of something deeper than flesh. A covenant between two souls that had been broken and made new. As the sun sinks behind them, guests rise, worship music continues, and Kazuo's voice echoes with a quiet, reverent, and sure, I thought I found salvation in her hands. But really, I met Christ when she refused to let go of mine. The end, or rather, the beginning of something sacred.